I'm Polly Warren and welcome to the Positive Perimenopause podcast. This is the place for some positive inspiration to help you through the rollercoaster ride of perimenopause. I truly believe that with the right support, knowledge and wellness tools, you can feel your best yet. Because I'm learning this life phase can be a truly exciting and often pivotal time of life. With every episode, my mission is to support and empower you to own your menopause, because it's time to start taking care of the most important person, and yes, that's you. So thank you for being here and sharing your time with me. Now let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the podcast with me, your host, Polly Warren. I hope you've had a really good week and that you enjoyed last week's episode, which was about Stride by Side, a great initiative set up by two very inspiring women. And the aim is to raise some money for some really important research into women's health. So if you want to get involved in that, it's a 50,000 step walk or run or shuffle, whatever you want to do. You can go to stridebyside.org and you can register there. I also want to remind you about a quiz which you can take, which I have set up. And the aim of this quiz is to try and get you some clarity about where you're at now in your menopause journey. It's a quick 2-minute quiz. I don't know about you, but I always love a quiz. And the idea is you answer a few questions and then you'll find out where you are and the next steps to take. All you need to do is go to pollywarren.com/quiz. This week, we're talking relationships, and I know for one that relationships at midlife and during perimenopause can really become pretty strained. I've been with my husband for, I think it's 26 years now. We met when we were at university together, and we've been married 21 years, and that time has been amazing, really. But obviously, we have grown and changed a lot during that time. And we're not the same people we were when we got married. And I'm very, very grateful that we've managed to grow and change together. And I'd be absolutely lying if I said that there hadn't been any bumpy patches along the way, because there absolutely have been. And perimenopause was definitely one of those patches, because I just didn't feel like we were on the same wavelength at all. So today in this conversation, we talk a little bit about relationships. And I just want to say here and now that although we do talk in terms of a heterosexual relationship in this conversation, this actually applies to all relationships. Absolutely. And if you don't have a partner, it applies also to relationships with your nearest and dearest as well. My guest this week is Sarah Woodward. Sarah is a positive psychology coach and a multi-award winning divorce coach for women. She helps women to rediscover happiness after really terrible adversity so that they can live life even better than before. It's her mission to empower women to believe that even though the future may be different to what they were expecting, it can still be amazing. Sarah helps her clients move on with their lives. She helps them let go of the past and to find the happiness again that she knows that they deserve, because she was that person broken up by divorce. She felt like she wasted years totally devastated in therapy with chronic depression and really truly grieving what she lost in her relationship. But the good news is that she managed to find the tools to tap into her real, true happiness and realize that actually only herself could make herself truly happy again. And this is what she helps others with today. So without further ado, please welcome the lovely Sarah Woodward. So Sarah, hello and welcome to the podcast. It's really great to have you here today.
Hi, so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you. So Sarah, maybe a good place to start today is if you could tell us a little bit more about you and how you have come to do the work that you do today?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a breakup and divorce coach and also a positive psychology coach as well. So I help women rediscover happiness after adversity so they can live a life even better than before. And I went through my own divorce 15 years ago now, and I was totally blindsided and devastated by it. I didn't see it coming. I wasn't expecting it. And I found it really difficult to cope. I was stuck for a long time. I had years of therapy, which definitely has its place and helped me. But what that didn't do is it didn't give me the tools to be able to help myself, really. It was very much focused on the past. It wasn't looking at the future, and it didn't give me the tools that I needed to be able to help myself move on. So it got to the stage where I literally didn't know how to help myself, and I was stuck for a very long time. And that impacted all areas of my life. It impacted my career. I had quite a senior role in finance in Sony at the time, and I had a team of 25 people to manage, and it just got to the stage where I didn't have the emotional capacity to deal with that anymore, and I felt it wasn't fair on my team. I couldn't give them what they needed. So I asked, to have a different role that was just me, not with no reports. So, it impacted all areas of my life, really. And what I realized is that, I retrained as a coach in 2016 because when I was in Sony, that's the part I always loved, was coaching and developing my teams. And at that time, I hadn't heard about divorce coaching because it's still really new in the UK. It's growing really quickly, but it's still really new. It's much bigger in the US. And as soon as I found out about it, it was just like, that was my calling, really. I know it would have made so much difference to me if I'd had access to a coach when I was going through my divorce. So, yeah, it felt like it was almost meant to be, really, as soon as I found out about it. So I trained as an accredited breakup and divorce coach. And then last year I trained as a positive psychology coach as well, because that fits really well with people going through adversity, because positive psychology is all about helping people flourish and thrive in life and find happiness again. So the two work really well together.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. So how old were you when you were going through your divorce then?
35.
35.
So, yeah, and I'd been with my husband since I was 19. So it was all my adult life, and that was all I knew.
Wow. Yes. Gosh, I've been with my husband since I was 19 as well, actually. So yeah, that's all I've known. And I think that's really difficult, isn't it? Because so many of your friends are interconnected and you've kind of grown up together. So yeah, that must have been a really challenging time for you. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So today, obviously, this podcast is all about perimenopause and menopause. And although you didn't have your breakup when you were perimenopausal or menopausal, I think it's such an important area for us to discuss, because relationships is one big juicy fat area, I think, of midlife, which we haven't actually talked a huge amount yet on this podcast, but I think it's an area which is affected massively for a myriad of reasons. I saw that actually on the UK, for the UK National Office of Statistics, they say that divorce rates peak for couples aged between 45 to 49 years old. And over 60% of those divorces in the UK are initiated by women. Mm. And particularly sort of in their later years, in their 40s and their 50s. Yeah. Why do you think this is?
I think there's a number of reasons, and around the 50s, 60s, that's the fastest growing rate of divorce amongst people. And they're actually referred to as silver splitters in the UK. So it's a growing phenomenon. I think there's a number of reasons. I think life expectancy is longer now. So I think people get to the stage, perhaps in their 40s, 50s, and they're not necessarily happy in their relationship. And they think, is this it for the rest of my life? And they're reassessing actually what they want, and they know that they've got plenty of years left ahead of them to be able to actually find another relationship that's, more fulfilling and can make them happier. I think the other thing is children leaving home as well. Again, couples reassess their relationship, and quite often find that they've grown apart. They haven't necessarily got much in common anymore. It was almost the children keeping them together. And I think, a lot of studies show the third factor is that women carry a lot of the emotional workload in relationships. So things like, just running the home, childcare, as well as more often than not holding down a job nowadays as well. And I think that's where the menopause comes in, because it's a really difficult time for a lot of women. There's a lot changing in our bodies. There's lots of symptoms to deal with, and I think they don't necessarily get the support that they need from their husbands. And I think going through the menopause just maybe highlights it and brings it to a head, really. And they just question, are they getting what they need from their relationship, and do they deserve more?
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, it's this, as midlife women, there is so much on our plates.
Yeah.
And I do think that, I know for one, when I was in my early 40s, which is when I was sort of in the depths of my perimenopause symptoms, I also had a busy job, 3 small children. My husband was away a lot. So I've also felt like I was doing more of the share of all of the household jobs, as well as being on all of the WhatsApp groups for all the kids' activities and stuff. I kind of felt like I did everything. Yeah. And I felt very resentful often that my husband was off, doing his thing and not actually, wasn't really taking these responsibilities on board. I was very much lumbered with them. And then mix that with all of these growing menopausal symptoms. And for me, that was like anxiety, forgetfulness, brain fog. I just felt really isolated and very alone. And basically, I became a complete moody cow with him. I was a complete moody cow. And when he would come back, he often said he would stand outside the front door, have to take a big, deep breath, and didn't know what he was going to expect on the other side. And I know that the best option for us would have been just to communicate. But because I had all this sort of resentment, I think, inside, and obviously my changing hormones were not helping that, I would be very snappy at him, and we just couldn't seem to communicate. Yeah. Thankfully, he is incredibly understanding, but, I know felt isolated as well. He didn't know really what to do with me. But thankfully, we sort of muddled through, and our relationship sort of stood the test of time because it was a really strong relationship. But I think if he had been more aware of what was going on, it would have helped. But I also worry for those relationships, perhaps, which aren't as strong and have already got sort of some underlying cracks in them. I do think that menopause probably acts as a catalyst and really exposes and magnifies those cracks. Have you seen that with the people that you've worked with?
It's a really interesting question, actually. I do have a lot of clients that are in that age range, and I would say probably 80%. And I'm not necessarily sure that they realise that's a catalyst, but we certainly talk about the symptoms and things. So it's really interesting, I think, for me going forward to actually be more aware of that as well, because I've definitely got clients in that age range. And they are struggling with symptoms as well. And I think it's absolutely what you say. It's definitely a catalyst amongst other things, isn't it? It's almost like the final straw and the breaking point.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, for me, a relationship you obviously need to communicate, but you also need to remember who you are and be the people you are. And part of that, for me anyway, is you've got to have some fun together. Definitely. And I do think amongst that sort of midlife busyness of a family and all that brings, it's really important to have that sort of sense of fun. And that's one thing actually we've really tried to hold on to, me personally anyway. But I think the moment that kind of goes, then that's when relationships can really start to struggle. Plus also, one of the big menopause symptoms I think is no good for relationships is obviously the loss of libido, because that, I think when that goes, then I think both sides feel slightly rejected, and it's not helpful.
Yeah, I think that's a major factor as well, and definitely see that in my clients as well. And like you said, it is a major factor because both sides do feel rejected. And I think perhaps the woman beats herself up thinking, what's wrong with me, and blames herself when actually it's her hormones and what's going on in her body. And then the husband feels rejected because he doesn't necessarily understand what's changed and what's going on as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I suppose the question is, Sarah, what can we do? Because I think if we're in a relationship and we're struggling with our relationship, I do think, and I know this through speaking to clients and speaking to friends of mine, when they're saying to me, I'm not sure where my relationship is going, I'm really, really struggling, I suppose it's trying to work out whether the relationship is strong enough and should be saved, or whether this is a temporary blip. And actually, they're kind of seeing it through a different lens because of all the things which are happening around you. What can you do? Because you don't want to leave a relationship and then have regrets, do you?
Exactly. And that's definitely something I work with clients on, because I always say to them, you want to make sure you leave with no regrets. So if you decide to leave, you want to leave knowing that you've tried absolutely everything to make the relationship work. And when I have clients that come to me in that situation, in the first session, one of the questions I always ask them is, are they still in love with their husband? Because, I just think that's fundamental. And if you are, that's a really good starting point in terms of trying to make the relationship work together. And, and we go through things like, what they love about him, just trying to, reignite what they might have felt a long time ago, and can so often get forgotten amongst the the drudgery of everyday life, really, in routine and kids and everything else that's going on. So we definitely, explore that. And then we might do an exercise where we come up with an action plan, because it's much easier to change yourself than change the other person. So it's about taking responsibility where you can for what your part in it is. And we come up with an action plan of, what they can work on and change over, say, like the next 3 months. And ideally, if they can do that with their husband, then even better. If they can identify, so we look at what's not working for them and how they would like things to be, so they've got something tangible to go away with and work on. And ideally to do that with the husband as well. And something else, I always recommend, if needed, is couples counselling as well. I think that can be really effective. But sometimes it is just a case of they've kind of lost sight of what is great about their relationship. And I think that's definitely not helped over the last couple of years with the pandemic as well. I think that's put a lot of strain on couples. Yes, it's just helping them find out what they love about their husband, and, thinking about how they want their life to be going forward. And that's not necessarily the same as it has been in the past either. It's time to, reassess and think, what do I want from our life together over the next few years? But it's so important, as you said, to make sure you've tried absolutely everything before you make the decision to leave.
A very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you. Yeah, and I think you saying that about, it's actually taking a moment to reflect. I think that's so important, because I think when you're in that spiral of, oh my God, that's so irritating, everything they're doing, they're irritating, you need to just sit next to me and they're irritating. When you're in that spiral, then everything they do is really annoying. But it's only when you stop and really, you're so right, it's such a good piece of advice. Just really think about everything you love about that person and what were the reasons that you fell in love with them in the first place. And it's that, our thoughts gain momentum, don't they? So if you actually then start thinking positive thoughts, then they gain momentum in that positive way, and you start remembering, and then you start seeing all of the positive. Whereas when you're thinking all the negative, you just see more and more and more negative. So
that's how the brain is wired. So the brain kind of shows you more of what you're focusing on. So if you can shift your mindset, you'll start to notice more positive things.
Yeah, and I think it's not easy, I think, initially, but to have someone like you who can actually really help you along that journey to actually really focus on those positives. And I know I do it. I still do that. I do that with my husband sometimes. If you get into a negative spiral, I do then stop myself and I do think, right, no, let me remember all the great things. And you stop seeing all of those really irritating habits and behaviors which they do. It really, really does help. So someone's decided, right, yes, I'm still in love with them. Yes, I'm going to make a go of it. That would be a really good place to start. What else then would you recommend to them in terms of their relationship? I mean, if they want to carry on, can you kind of take them further with that? Or are you more tending towards the breakup aspect of it?
I do work with some clients to help them work through it, really, because they can bring any issues and things they're struggling with to the sessions, and we can talk through them, and I can help them reframe them, etc. And also, what I also do is work with them on themselves as well. Quite often women in that situation, a lot of the time they've lost their identity. It's only natural when we're in a relationship, we kind of lose sight of who we are as a single person. So I help them work on themselves so that they're happier in themselves as well, and that's just beneficial for the relationship. So it's things like sometimes they've lost their confidence and their self-esteem. Just help them find their passion in life again. That's where I use a lot of the positive psychology tools in, like, we do a list of what brings them joy and happiness in their life, and make sure that they've got those things booked in their diary regularly. Again, because life can take over sometimes, and we don't make, as you said earlier, we don't make time for the fun and the self-care and the self-compassion. So it's being much more intentional about those things as well. And things like encouraging them to exercise. These help with like the menopause symptoms as well, and just getting out in nature, having fresh air. Other things we do is, like, I really encourage my clients to start a daily gratitude practice as well, because that's been proven in many studies in positive psychology to really have a huge positive impact on your mental health. So as well as working with them on their relationship, it's helping them grow and develop as well into the person they want to be, so that they bring more joy and happiness into their life as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is very similar to the work I do, in that it's about taking responsibility for yourself and not relying on anybody else or anything else to bring happiness, because ultimately it's up to us to be happy. And once you can do that, then you can the ripple effects on everyone else is going to be amazing. And I think, particularly also going through this sort of midlife transition, I think part of it is that we are changing our identity. We're not the person who we were 10, 15 years ago. And it's about rediscovering who we are. And it's very, very similar. If you're coming out of a relationship or you're having relationship issues, you need to really be, it's about rediscovering who you are and the direction you want to go in. And all those little practices you mentioned are great. I mean, one of the big side effect of menopause is confidence. I think because our bodies are changing, because we're getting older, a lot of that self-confidence going. And I think that kind of coincides a lot, doesn't it, with relationship? If you're losing confidence in yourself and you're not feeling good about yourself, then it affects your relationship.
Absolutely. I think it has a huge impact.
Yeah. So what are some of the tools that you mentioned gratitude? What other tools for raising kind of confidence and happiness do you use?
I think one of the pillars of positive psychology is about accomplishments. And I definitely have found with my clients and myself as well, I don't celebrate my wins enough. I achieve something and then I'm straight on to the next thing, and I don't take any time to reflect on it. So as well as practicing gratitude, I think at the end of the day, I encourage my clients to celebrate 3 wins for that day. And again, that really helps to build up your confidence. And I had a client recently who started doing that, and she's like a type A personality, driven and ambitious. And it was interesting. She said, I've really started to reflect on the small things that I wouldn't necessarily have given any time to or thought about. So all that helps improve your mood and your confidence as well. And I think it's things like encouraging them to step outside their comfort zone as well, even just a small bit. So I've got a client at the moment who is petrified about being in another relationship and dating again. So literally her action for our session last week was just to download a dating app. It wasn't even to look at it. It was to just download it. And I think it's about giving yourself really small goals so that you're not overwhelmed from them, and massively celebrating your achievements and your wins from when you do those type of things as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I love all of those. I think all these little actions make such a positive difference, and they don't take long, but it's just remembering to do them. It's sort of reminding yourself that actually they're going to really help. So if someone, on the other hand, feels that their relationship isn't worth saving and actually they're going to be happier in the long term, not with that particular person, what, I suppose this is the difficulty. I mean, having been with my husband for a long time, since I was 19, I'm 48 now, well, I wouldn't even know where to start. What would I do? Because obviously it's going to be an incredibly traumatic and difficult experience. So maybe you could just talk us through what steps to take.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you said, going through a divorce is hugely traumatic, and it's the second most stressful life event you can go through, only second to the death of a loved one. So I think, I always start by telling my clients that, because it sounds really obvious, but no one told me that when I was going through my divorce. And because of that, I beat myself up so much, thinking, why aren't I coping with this? What's wrong with me? And I just didn't know the extent of what I was going through. I didn't even know I was grieving. Nobody told me that. And it sounds obvious now. But so some of the things you do, having a divorce coach can really hold your hand through the process and guide you through it. And we always say, the first thing to do is to get your support team together. And ideally that would be a divorce coach who can help you with some of the practical and emotional side of things. It would be a solicitor, or mediator, depending on, how the breakup is, whether it's amicable or not. But ideally, if you could go through mediation, it's a lot more amicable and it's a lot cheaper. And always advise a financial advisor as well, because they have this amazing software where they can help you model what you would want your settlement to be. So it's like, if you took this much, this is what it would mean for your lifestyle, etc. And they can really help you in the negotiation process. Whereas a lot of people think they should just see a financial advisor at the end once they've got their settlement. I think it's really important to see them up front. So I think it's definitely about having your support team in place. And then, we would talk about things like, how they would break it to their husband as well, and go through that in the kindest way. If they've got children, how they would tell them and what support they would put in place, and to think about, what they would want in terms of contact arrangements and shared custody, etc. And just making sure, even some of the tips I spoke about earlier, having like exercise in place. We do an audit on their friends, in terms of, you always want to be spending time with people that light you up and make you feel good about yourself, especially at times like this. So, who are those people, and who's going to be your support during this time? Because it's not necessarily always the people that you think it will be. So it's not always those closest to us, because often they're too they've got too much invested in the situation, so they can't be objective in terms of the opinions they give you. So sometimes it's better to have some support from people that aren't as close to you. So it's getting them to think about all these practical elements as well. And then obviously, as we go through it, and there's all the emotional side of things, it's having someone objective for them to talk to, but it's also then giving them the tools that they need to be able to help themselves. Because again, that's where coaching is different. You don't have to come for years and years. It aims to give you the tools to help yourself. And then you've got those tools for life as well. They're life skills that you've learned to help you in other challenging situations as well. So yeah, there's a lot of different aspects to it. But I would say the first place to start is, getting your support team in place to help you through it.
Yeah, it's like anything, isn't it? When you've got support, everything is made so much more bearable and easier. Yeah, I mean, I'm really hoping that anyone listening who is struggling with their relationship, I'm hoping that actually it could be saved, because I think ultimately that's a great option. But sometimes, unfortunately, it's not possible. Yeah. So what about you, Sarah? So where are you at the moment in your whole menopause journey?
So I'm perimenopausal, and still have regular cycles. So I'm 54, so that's actually, quite late. I've been on progesterone for a couple of years and recently just started taking estrogen. But the main symptoms I have, I mean, I've been lucky so far. I haven't had any hot flushes. My mood's been okay, and I haven't suffered from anxiety, which I know are really common symptoms. I'm lucky with that. For me, it's like the brain fog, forgetting words, and the tiredness and the low mood as well. They've been my symptoms. But yes, and weight gain as well. Those ones. And again, things like the weight gain, that really affects your confidence and that can affect your relationships. But extreme tiredness. And I do feel that the estrogen is helping with that. And it's been interesting looking back. I have been suffering from extreme tiredness for a long time, and it's only with the benefit of hindsight that I think now was that due to the menopause?
Yeah.
And I think it is, and I think it's not picked up often enough, is it? I've ended up going to a private clinic to get treatment because just from what my doctors were saying to me, I just didn't have confidence that they really knew exactly what I needed and weren't as well educated on it. So I think it's so important to make sure you get the right advice when you're going through it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. What sort of advice were your doctors giving you?
Well, they just put me on progesterone, not estrogen to start with. They did a blood test and said my estrogen was okay. But since I've done my research, I know that your estrogen can vary day to day and even within a day. So there isn't actually a blood test to test.
And what age was that?
I would say that was maybe 4 years ago.
When you were
late 40s, 50. Yeah.
See, that's just all not right. That's all wrong. It's so frustrating, isn't it? It just totally depends on who you get to see.
Yeah. And when I talked to my GP about going on estrogen, she was concerned that it would make me put weight on. When actually, when I speak to the specialist, it's actually the opposite. So I just felt like I've watched Louise Newson a lot as well and learned a lot from her over and done my own research, and it just didn't feel right. And then my GP prescribed me synthetic progesterone when I was already taking Utrogestan, the bioidentical one.
Yeah.
And I just decided it's so important. It's such a major time of your life that I would invest in my health and see a specialist to make sure I got the best treatment to help me through it, really.
Yeah. And what about any other tools that you're using to help manage it in terms of sort of lifestyle? Have you made any changes, or have you found anything that particularly works for you?
So I use a lot of my positive psychology tools. So I think one of the things I haven't been very good at in the past is taking time out to restore. I mean, we all talk about sleep and nutrition and exercise, but we don't talk much about the restoration time. So I try and listen to my body more. And if I'm having a day where I feel really exhausted, then I'm trying to just be kinder on myself and not push through it. And that's actually one of the things that's different for me. I noticed I used to be able to push through the tiredness and I can't do it anymore. So it's actually being kinder to myself. I finally found exercise that I really enjoy again. So I literally, that's marked out in my diary, so that I can't talk myself out it and give my excuses not to be there. And I think that really helps it massively with the mental health. I mean, it was a huge thing for me during my divorce. I would literally drive to the gym in tears. I'd have a session with my trainer and I'd come out feeling so much better. So I think exercise is a huge thing, and it doesn't have to be anything massive. That can be just getting out in nature and having a walk. It's whatever you love. I think it's about bringing those positive emotions in as well. So I think they're probably the main things in terms of listening to my body and being kinder to myself. That's a huge change for me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is so good to hear it actually in action and that it's actually working for you, because it's so true. As midlife women, being kinder to ourselves is probably one of the hardest things. And yet, it's something which we can all do. And listening to our bodies and slowing down. Gosh, that one took me a long time as well, to actually not push through when you're feeling exhausted and just go, okay, I'm going to just take a bit of time out for me. And however that might look for you, I actually have made a pledge to myself that once a month I'm going to treat myself to some sort of treatment actually, as I went and had some reflexology last month, and and the lovely woman doing the reflexology treatment said, this isn't a treat. This is actually a necessity, because it all helps it's all helping with your balancing your hormones, reducing your stress. And I know it's an investment, but I see it as a really needed and positive investment to do these things. Or it could just be literally moving away from the laptop and going outside and having a walk. So it is so important, and it does really help. It reduces the cortisol levels in our bodies, which in turn is going to reduce inflammation, which in turn is going to help stabilize our hormones. I mean, I bang on about this all the time, but it's so important. And yes, and the other thing you said, which I just absolutely love, is finding exercise, not just any exercise, but exercise you enjoy, because then you're more likely to do it. And it, again, if you don't like running, don't run. Go and find something else to do, because you're not going to stick with it. So it's about finding something. And there are so many different things out there. So yeah, loved both of those.
That's made a massive difference to me. It doesn't, now I've found something I love, I don't have to force myself to get there. I actually want to go, and I look forward to it. So it's so important, as you said, to find something that you love doing.
Yeah, and it might take a few goes at trying various things. It might not be the first thing you try, particularly if you haven't exercised for a while. It's about just being brave and finding something, sparking a little bit of curiosity and going, oh, okay, I'm going to have a little go at that. And then once you go a few times and you recognize the people, and it becomes a real laugh. And yeah, it really does work. Out of interest, what is it? What is the thing you do?
So F45, have you heard of that?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Interval training. And I've got lots of knee issues, which is the reason I haven't exercised for a while, but they're really good at adapting it for me, so they make it no impact. But it's 45 minutes, it's quick, it's got great music, it's varied, it's never the same. So I love it, really, really love it.
Oh, brilliant. Well done. Yeah, music is so important for me as well. You've got to have some good tunes whilst you're doing it. Amazing. So Sarah, to finish, I ask all my guests for one actionable, practical tip which the listeners can take away, which are going to help them really. I always say to have a positive perimenopause, but maybe this could be a good tip in terms of relationships. I don't know if there's something which comes to mind, which you could give them.
I think it's probably what we spoke about in terms of changing your mindset and remembering all the good things about your partner, because I think that has such a massive impact on the outlook for your relationship. And it's, as we spoke about, you get sucked into this downward cycle, which is fueled by all the symptoms you're going through in your menopause, and actually just take some time to step back and actually almost, even do yourself a list of all the things you love about them. And just remind yourself, and also, you can take that step further, and you can start telling them those things. So again, positive psychology talks about, in relationships, about bringing in rituals. And at the end of the day, if you both felt comfortable doing this, and it's something that is really powerful, you can tell each other what you've loved about that person that day, what you've really appreciated about them, what you've noticed about them, and that has such a positive impact on your relationship. It's really powerful. So, if you can take it that step further and actually start communicating that to them, it's really impactful.
Yeah, I find that so useful. For me, it's all about communicating. Mm-hmm. And when you stop doing that and you instead think that they understand what you're going through, but actually they really, really don't have a clue because you haven't told them, that for me is when it was all starting to go wrong. But actually, when you communicate, and I do try and make a real effort with this with my husband, if he makes me breakfast, which he does quite often, I'll say thank you. That was really delicious breakfast, and then he tends to do it again. Or if he has done something, whatever it might be, something really thoughtful, and it's just a small thing. It's just making a point of going, thank you so much. I appreciate that so much, and all of those little gratitudes, I suppose, ripple along to just him wanting to do more. Then I want to do something to make in return. And I do find that works. It does sound really cheesy, but it does really work.
It does. It has a massive impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sarah, it's been so lovely to talk to you today. If anybody would like to get in touch with you, how can they find you?
Probably the best place is on Instagram. I'm Sarah Woodward _divorce coach.
Brilliant. All right. I will put all your details into the show notes. And yeah, thank you. It's been lovely to meet you. Thank you for your advice. And yeah, if anyone wants to get in touch, I'm sure they will.
Thank you so much.
I hope you found this conversation helpful. Do you know, I don't know why, when I record my podcasts, the printer which is in my room always seems to go off. It's my husband upstairs, has obviously sent something to print, so apologies for that. Amazingly, the doorbell didn't go today. Normally the doorbell always goes and the dog barks, and I normally edit it out. But yeah, there was none of that today, just a printer. Anyway, don't forget, if you would like to find out where you're at on your menopause journey, you can come and have a go at my quick 2-minute quiz at pollywarren.com/quiz. Not only will you find out where you are in your menopause journey, but you will also get some next steps, because you don't need to struggle through menopause. And this really is my message to you all. If you are struggling, get the support, get the help. This could be a good first step for you. There are so many things you can do to get yourself feeling even better than you did before hitting this stage of life. And don't forget, if you would like to leave me a review, honestly, they mean the whole world to me. I've had some amazing reviews from you. So thank you so much if you've taken the time to write a review. It spurs me on to keep doing this podcast. So thank you. If you'd like to, you can go to Apple Podcasts and you can leave a review for me there. Or if you just want to send me an email, I always love to hear from you. You can email me at info@pollywarren.com. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.